podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
It's on the cusp of every supporter's lips. Not the topic, not Fletcher's bowels, of
course. This podcast is over. How you doing, Ed?
I'm very good, and apparently so is Darren Fletcher. He's on the mend, not ready to come back, but feeling better. Of course, we know from the previous information we've been given about his particular condition that this is a condition that can come and go in waves. So just because he's feeling better doesn't mean that we're likely to see him back in the United shirt anytime soon.
No, but it would be, of course, lovely if he could make a proper full recovery. But obviously that's very unclear. United certainly could have used Darren Fletcher on Monday night, Sky Sports 1, not Channel 5. Gary Neville's punditry was really the only thing of true excellence to come out of Manchester United that night.
Well, unlike Gary Neville, United definitely did fanny around a bit, didn't they?
They did. An awfully disjointed performance, and I, watching it, couldn't help but feel a little bit unsurprised by how disjointed it was, given the central midfield partnership of Giggs and Carrick. A strange decision to rest Paul Scholes, I thought.
Yeah, it was a strange decision, given that it was 8 days since the last game and Scholes has been in such good form and pretty crucial to United's functional midfield at the moment. So yes, I guess the idea is that he's 37 and they want to give him a rest. Make sure he's ready for the rest of the run-in and home game against a team United almost always beats, and all of that, probably as good a time as any to give Scholes a rest. But yeah, it caused a bit of a problem. Giggs gave the ball away a lot, as we've discussed before. I mean, it's Scholes 90 plus pass completion, Giggs around 70. It tells a story of United's use of the ball in midfield, and in truth, although Ferguson said that United had dominated the game, it really was a kind of strange kind of domination, wasn't it? I mean, first 15-20 minutes there, Fulham had quite a few chances, or certainly part of the game, and certainly the last 10 minutes some excellent chances, and in the end it came down to some good fortune with a penalty call that certainly could have gone against United, and the fact that Fulham didn't finish off the chances that they had, and United and all the supporters would be very grateful to get away with a 1-0 win.
Yeah, absolutely. And, before the game, you're in that, scrappy 1-0 win or bite your hand off for that sort of mode. But there was a lot of talk about goal difference before this game, and it felt like there was a certain sense of hubris about that, given, we had to win the game first before worrying about improving our goal difference significantly. Although, of course, it's another +1, and we're within 3 goals of Manchester City's goal difference now, which looked a far-off goal earlier in the season.
It certainly did, especially when they stuck 6 past us at Old Trafford.
I don't know what you're talking about.
So if there was hubris and some incorrect predictions about the nature and the scoreline in the Fulham game, then certainly not about City's trip to Stoke, where I think we all predicted and felt that Stoke would give City a real hard game, and the fact that City really can't score any goals or many goals away from home at the moment, and had Peter Crouchino on the Stoke City side, who scored an absolute belter of a goal, then kind of felt as predicted that game, and another 2 points additional from United. It's a very good weekend, even if the performance against Fulham wasn't really up to scratch.
Amazing scenes from Peter Crouch. Extraordinary piece of leg sticking out in the right direction at the right time with the right force.
Yeah, I'm sure some physicists would have some, or some civil engineers would have some stuff to say about that one. I think it's the leverage with those 8-foot-long legs that created that goal.
It just makes him look, I mean, he always looks big, but when he really sticks the leg miles out, kind of up into the air, it makes him look like an actual giant when he does stuff like that. But I mean, fantastic, and the fact is that we did win against Fulham, and yes, it was unimpressive, and it's in the manner of the victory, but it's a very impressive result given that City had managed to retake top spot in the league, albeit on goal difference.
Yeah. And look, there's next 4 games, all of United's games against teams in the bottom 6, without a hint of hubris. These games United absolutely do need to win. I mean, obviously obviously we'll come on to Blackburn away in a bit, and Blackburn have hit some semblance of form, I guess, just about-ish, despite being so awful earlier in the season, and that's a tie that's proven tricky over the years, so that could be a stumbling block. But realistic, United should get 12 points out of the next 12. Pressure is telling on City, no matter how much Patrick Vieira bleats about how desperate United are to have Paul Scholes back, or how the refs are all on United's side and yada yada yada. It is telling. City need to start getting results. They're not getting results. They've got some tricky away ties, and we could, as we've said before, come round to the derby on April the 30th with United significantly in the league.
Yeah, I don't know. City's home form is incredibly good though, isn't it? And they've really got one properly difficult away tie and one which has the potential to be difficult, but Norwich are completely safe and not really got anything significant to play for the rest of the season, so that might not be as tough as it otherwise may have been. Listen, Fulham on Monday night, what did you make of United's performance? What were your takeaways from it?
It was just very flat. There seemed to be a lack of urgency, and I don't mean that in terms of playing at pace. So United certainly played at pace, but it wasn't the right kind of tempo. Sometimes it was all kind of pace, and actually first 15 minutes no pace at all. The balance of the side wasn't quite right. Didn't feel like United were urgent enough. That's not a case of not wanting it enough, but at the right times they needed to speed the play up, and that didn't happen. And generally speaking, it just wasn't as fluent as we'd like to see United play. That and Fulham played pretty well, I thought, especially going forward. They stuck to it up front. They weren't like many sides who were solely concentrating on defending. I mean, they certainly defended in numbers. After the first 2 minutes to about minute 10, they defended and then really came out and had some good chances, and David De Gea had to make some saves, and you'd say in the first half he made more saves than Mark Schwarzer in the opposite goal. So credit to Fulham, I guess. It wasn't a good United performance though at all, and truthfully got away with it. I mean, I know Ferguson chose to concentrate largely on the handball that wasn't given, and it could have been given, although it would have been pretty hard on a player who's about a yard away from Patrice Vieira. And Michael Carrick's foul, definitely a foul, and I guess the referee can be excused because he probably saw the ball diverted away at an angle.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the whole penalty thing is ridiculous. Vieira, Office Monkey, asking what we think of Vieira's comments about United's decisions, the decisions United get at home or otherwise. And we'll think it's ridiculous, obviously. Patrick Vieira doesn't seem to be helping his team very much by drawing attention to things going on at United. He's losing in the mind games to Fergie. Mind games, the whole thing is complete nonsense. It's he said, she said at the moment. But yeah, I mean, the Newcastle decision is the most obvious one, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. 1-1 draw at Old Trafford. Yeah, Ryan Giggs said that they even out over the course of the season. I'm sure they do. I don't believe for a minute United get favourable decisions. There's that website, isn't there, Deb Decisions, that counts them all up, and I think United were quite low down on that table of whether the decision went in their favour or not, and how many points it's cost you over the course of the season. So I don't buy Patrick Vieira's comments. It's one for the referees, isn't it? I think it's a bit desperate. It just makes him sound that they're focused on United and not on their own results, and whereas United very much focused on churning out the points, even if the performances aren't outstanding all the time. And that's the kind of difference between the two sides, really, isn't it? It's City still with a chip on their shoulders, still focused on United all the time.
So any decent performances from United players? I thought Valencia was again our biggest threat.
Yeah, I mean, he certainly wasn't as good as he was the week previously, not nearly as consistent. You've got to praise the back five, I guess. Johnny Evans had another excellent game. Fair to say he's United's definitely second choice central defender, may even be the first name on the team sheet. He's playing so well at the moment, and De Gea had a solid game. No mistakes, hasn't made a mistake for weeks and weeks and weeks now, and so you've got to be pleased about that. I mean, in fact, was clean sheet for United, and if we get clean sheets every single game from here until the end of the season, we'll be pretty damn close to winning the title.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I guess I'm struggling to find interesting things to say about that game. I really don't understand why Fergie didn't play Scholes and took the risk of the disjointedness that happens pretty much every time Giggs is in the midfield. I guess the one thing that often happens when Giggs plays in the midfield is he creates goals, and that didn't happen, so the gamble kind of didn't quite pay off, but ultimately 3 points, clean sheet, 1 goal nudged off the goal difference, and with 3 points clear at the top of the table.
Absolutely, and that's what counts, of course. I mean, we'd like to see United stick 5 in every week. Hopefully it'll happen next week against Blackburn, although I can't say I see it, although United's form away from home is probably better than form at home at the moment. So there you go, maybe. Scholes, he'll return for the Blackburn game. I'm sure that'll be a game where patience is required and United needs to keep the ball, and I'm sure he'll be back in the side. Now, one final end note on this one. Some ridiculous commentary about Michael Carrick this week. I mean, I know I tweeted it, and I don't tend to tweet absolute nonsense commentary, but they two in very quick succession articles. One about how Carrick is going to cost United the title. This is after he had a 92% pass completion rate. The interesting stat for you, anti-Michael Carrick brigade, there's some of them left. People say he passes the ball backwards all the time. 10% of more than 1,500 passes in the Premier League have gone backwards from Michael Carrick.
There you go.
Another article, even more ridiculous, that suggested, based on Martin Jol praising Michael Carrick, that Fulham were after him because Carrick has failed at United. Yeah, I think
Well, that's
not.
like unbelievable. Where did that come from then? Proper journalists or random bloggers?
Well, randoms in semi-official professional media.
Right, okay.
The last semi-professional media being the Evening Standard.
Semi-professional being appropriate. I mean, Michael Carrick has probably been United's player of the season. I mean, I'm looking forward to the discussions we have about player of the season because I think it's going to be really interesting. You say David De Gea's not made any mistakes for ages. In the tunnel, I had a decent close-up of De Gea. Can't help thinking that whilst that beard may be getting results, it's not doing him any favours facially.
I think he's trying to become Brian Blessed, isn't he? So I just picture him in Flash Gordon, you know, the film from the 1980s. Just needs to put on a few pounds, well, £200.
Yeah, another one of himself again.
And there you go, he could be him.
Flash, that'll be the entirety of my singing this week.
Very good. So a couple of other things this week, if we're done with Fulham. Rio Ferdinand, suggestions that he may be getting a new contract. He's actually got a contract not till 2012, till 2013, so he has more than a year left on his contract anyway, but suggestions that he'll get an additional year on top of that, which would be attractive to him, especially coming up to 34 now, and a 2-year contract gives him a bit of security, although it would mean a hefty pay cut. So what do you think about this one? I mean, he's certainly going to be at United next season, I would think now. Ferguson came out and praised him this week, and I think we all felt that Rio was very close to going, well, he was very close to leaving United last summer, but looks like he'll be on for more than a decade at the club by the time he finally leaves.
Yeah, I did not think he was very close to leaving in the summer. I mean, I know there was a lot of talk, but it didn't feel like he was just about to be out the door. I mean, maybe he was close to fixing an exit for the end of this season, but it seemed remarkably unlikely to me that he would leave, given that what Rio seems to care about more than anything else is winning trophies. That seems to be his whole thing when it comes to football.
And brand Rio, of course.
Well, yeah. But, you know, as a professional athlete, what he wants is to win, isn't it? And there's obviously no better place to do that than United. And, I mean, he's obviously an extremely wealthy man already, so money is probably not his motivating factor in contract decisions.
No, a decade at United on extremely large wages have ensured that he never needs to work again after this, and of course his focus is on his media empire and commercial exploits and all of that. So I can't see him going to the Middle East or China or anything like that, or Russia. I could see him going to the States, of course, and this was the very strong hint, backed up by some very good sources on this one, that Rio and his people were definitely looking at that last summer, and United were prepared to countenance that. Now, it didn't happen, and I would be really surprised if United let him go in the coming summer. They'll probably want to hedge their bets there. Phil Jones, Chris Smalling are not definite certainties to play every week. Jones, still has some development to do. Evans has an excellent last few weeks at United. If he continues it to next season, I mean, there's certainly no question in leaving, but there's a question then of whether Evans will be first choice, but we don't know what's happening with Nemanja Vidic and how fit he'll be. Says he'll be back in July, but such a serious injury, we don't know to what quality. So there are quite a few question marks at the back. Given the limited funds Ferguson's likely to have, he has other priorities for certain. The right back, we think, sealed already. Midfield, maybe even a striker, depending on how much money is in the pot. And so central defence won't be an area that Ferguson's looking to spend money in. So it all points to Rio staying.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's got to be a good thing. I mean, you say over a decade at a club, and it's interesting Rio's place in the affections of United fans. I mean, there was a little period where it wasn't sure whether he'd sign a big contract extension, and I remember, sign your contract chants at him and stuff.
Well, and this was just after he'd spent 8 months out after receiving a ban for forgetting to do a drug test. I mean, as unfair as that decision was in many ways, oh God, we could go back into that one again, but definitely unfair and unprecedented. It was the wrong time to pick to start a war with the club over a contract.
Well, yeah, although, of course, from the player's perspective, it was exactly the key time to do that, given his kind of potential, going into the highest earning phase of his career and definitely the top performing phase of his career.
Yeah.
And, he's always been a bit London for United, hasn't he? He's always been a bit flashy and a bit kind of, geezer bloke. But he's been an immense player for us for such a long time. And I really like him. I really, his public persona is a bit dippy or whatever, but I just kind of enjoy his presence in the public eye. He seems to have a balance of self-promotion with actual genuine content on his Twitter feed, and he's kind of open about what he thinks without being offensive to, without causing a massive media storm every time he says anything. I just think he seems like a sort of decent bloke, Rio. Obviously reading a bit into it from a distance, but I kind of like him, and I definitely think he's up there with the centre-back greats in United's history in terms of his class.
Yes, I mean, he's had a fine 8.5 seasons with United, or let's call it 8 with the time he had out, and looks like he'll go on for a 9th, definitely, so maybe more. He's been excellent for United, proven to be value for money even at 30 million, I guess, given all the trophies United have won. Whether he's nice bloke is open to interpretation. His wife, that he is regularly, allegedly cheated on, might not think that, and he has got this kind of flash persona, and the red issue moniker of wobbly gobbed tosser has never really left him, has it? And all of that. Yeah, he's not always been discreet in how he is, and of course, we like Paul Scholes and his manner of doing things much more, don't we? But in terms of on the pitch, he's been an outstanding player for United, and given that Ferguson in November said he'd lost a yard of pace, needed to adapt his game, and there were a lot of question marks about Rio's future, he's come back very strongly. He doesn't miss many games, hasn't missed many in the last few months at all, has he? Seems to have got the back issue under control. They pulled him off after an hour in the last 2 games, and it's just, I guess they recognise when he has a problem and make sure he doesn't go on and doesn't cause any additional damage, and that's the right way to do things. One question though, of course, about him carrying on is that he will be 34 soon, and next season you'd think they might want to use him sparingly, but it's a problem in central defence, and we've seen a problem with Rio. His form definitely dips when he's out with injury. Is his form going to dip if he's rotated? Is central defence an area you want to rotate? I mean, I would suggest not. So that does kind of point to Rio's role in the United side squad being diminished significantly next season.
Yeah, and I was just going to make that exact point, really. I wonder whether his career is going to go downhill pretty quickly as well, because we've seen him take longer and longer to come back from injury, come back into form from injury, and as you say, rotation could have a hugely negative effect on that and the stability of United's defence. But I wonder whether Fergie's also thinking, given the way he's planning to set United up, having a kind of less pacey, more deep-lying defender week in, week out, and the physical demands aren't going to be quite so strong on Rio. I mean, he does spend large parts of the game quite literally not doing anything. He sort of strolls about in our half when the ball's in their half, and Johnny Evans is always the one kind of doing the running, and Rio's making sure he stands in the place the ball's going to be, and all that stuff.
Yes, well, and a nice segue into another player who does not very much on the pitch, and more literal in Michael Owen's case, but he says this week that he'd like to stay in football for another 3 years, hinted that he'd like to stay on at United, and it's really up to the manager to decide that one. You can't see this, can you? Could Owen get a another year's contract? I mean, I suppose if you really wanted to take the Glazonomic scenario to its ultimate extreme, they would not spend on another striker after Berbatov leaves this summer and Macheda is sold, and give Owen the fourth choice spot in attack and another year contract and a fourth year at United. You can't see that, can you?
Yeah, I can see it. It doesn't sound like good news. The other Glazonomics factor is you probably don't have to pay Michael Owen anything. You probably just say, okay, you get paid if you play, and that's obviously never going to happen. Don McDowell says, in fact, we all laugh about Owen getting a new contract, but I genuinely feel it could happen. Is he going to be the fourth choice next season? I just hope not. But you can definitely see it. And Ferguson seems to value his presence around the place generally, because otherwise why would he have got another contract this year? I mean, he adds nothing to the squad, does he? He's always injured. He's lost so much from his game. He's only really, apart from that wonderful winner he scored in the derby, his significant contributions for United have always been in the Carling Cup against really terrible sides. Well, I don't know. It just doesn't seem plausible to me.
Well, Owen's a horseman, so if I said would I like him to stay on at United, I'd have to say nay.
Oh, that's terrible.
Sorry. But look, in truth, in all seriousness, he seems to be focused on his horses more than the football these days. I mean, it's all he ever tweets about. What odd quote from him now and then from an interview. And I mean, he's a man who, despite all the wealth he's accumulated over the years, is pretty humble about it. And I think he knows he gets an awful lot of stick. And so he recognises that. And he seems a nice enough chap, even for one who darkened our doors from his presence at Anfield all those years ago. So I don't despise him despite that. I mean that's all mitigated by the fact that Liverpool supporters absolutely hate him. So it irritates them. It's good for that reason alone, I suppose. But you're right, he's added absolutely no value for United. I mean, I read some utter nonsense on Twitter about Owen, having debates with people who say, oh, he's good for the kids. In what sense? I mean, any game he plays is a game that younger players can't. He can't teach them anything when he's on the treatment table. He might be a nice influence around the squad, but it's not like United is short of experienced players. Paul Scholes and Ryan Giggs, who have 1,500 games worth of experience for United there, so I'm not sure how much value he's adding there. Certainly not adding goals against. He scored one goal against what you might call the big five rivals in 3 years at United. More than half his goals have come in the Carling Cup. Take away those 3 goals against Wolfsburg, which was a weird game all in all. He's got 1 in the Champions League. His value is almost nothing. I mean, he's like started the season like 5th choice striker. He's a player who will play in second tier games only. And what's the point when we could have a young player playing who wouldn't cost much either? I don't see the logic in any of it, and I'd be really sad and actually quite angry given he's got the number 7 shirt if he gets another season at United.
They'll have to take the number 7 shirt off him, surely.
Well, why would they? I
guess. Talking of shirt numbers, we've had a question about who should get the number 9 shirt if Berbatov leaves. I find it difficult to discuss this because it raises the possibility that Berbatov will leave, which I know I'm going to have to come to terms with. But Welbeck or Chicharito?
I have no opinion. I mean, it doesn't really matter that much, does it?
No.
Despite that little rant about the number 7 shirt there, it's not that important. I guess they can toss a coin if one of them cares.
Yeah, I mean, and also, I know it's sort of ridiculous, but the number 7 shirt does have a weight that the number 9 shirt doesn't have at United. A significance.
Well, right, look, there's been some outstanding players who've had number 7 shirt, haven't they? Beckham had it for a while, Cantona, Best, Steve Coppell.
Yeah, little somewhat half-known figure that's gone on to do okay in La Liga, called Cristiano Ronaldo, of course.
Mr. Ronaldo, yes.
100 goals in 92 games for Real Madrid in Spain. I feel sick just talking about it. The man is a machine.
He really is, and the remarkable thing is that he has played second fiddle every week as Leo Messi scores one brilliant goal after another. In fact, I mean, he doesn't score one goal, does he? He scores one brilliant hat-trick or quintet of goals after another.
It is really odd that the two of them are around at the same time, and it must just knock Ronaldo to no extent. I mean, he has just broken the record for quickest to 100 goals in Spanish football, a record that was held by Ferenc Puskás from a time when, there was 17 strikers on the pitch.
Try saying that in a Sean Connery accent.
Yeah, Ferenc Puskás. It's just exactly the same. But yeah, from a time when, they didn't really have defenders in football and every game was 8-0. But that's pretty much La Liga now, of course, when Real Madrid and Barcelona play, every game's pretty much 8-0. But 192 for Real Madrid, just amazing. And I guess congratulations to a player that United's website keeps on insisting on calling a Manchester United legend.
Yes, interesting way of putting it for an ex-United player. So, another player who has not scored 100 goals, probably won't ever get 100 goals if his career goes on the current path. Kiko Machado, we talked about him a couple of weeks ago, of course, didn't we? We were discussing whether United might need a fourth striker in the summer. He's been injured, got an ankle injury, won't play at all for the rest of the season. Talk about a dog's dinner of a season for him. Injury, reserves, another disastrous loan, and his career's gone south extremely rapidly.
Yeah, at Jack_Cannings asking whether we think he should stay or go, especially given this latest injury setback. I'm pretty sure we said on the show last week, well, you said you were almost certain that Machado would go, and I definitely agree with that. I think he'll find his level, because I think he's not a player without talent. He's just not of the highest level of quality, I don't think. But I definitely think he'll find his level and have a successful career for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he will. He doesn't feel like a player who has the right mental attitude right at the moment. Maybe he'll come back. I mean, we talked about him and Welbeck, didn't we, a couple of weeks ago? Interesting that Welbeck had an utter stinker of a match against Fulham, didn't he? His touch was all over the place. Every time he tried to control it, he kicked it about 10 yards forward. So let's hope that was a one-off, because it didn't augur well. But his career's on the rise. Welbeck's, and Machado's definitely on the side. He needs to make a really good decision in the summer about what he's going to do, whether it's a move or a loan. He needs to make a really good decision, pick the right club, and get some luck, of course. One thing that might be terrible for him is if United seek a fee that's bigger than the market is prepared to support, like they did with Cusack and Diouf last summer, and both of them ended up staying on as a result, and Cusack's finally gone away on loan and he'll leave on a free in the summer, and Diouf left 1.5 million to Hanover. He scored a bunch of goals, funnily enough. He's got 5 in 9 or something like that. I mean, it might even be more than that now after the weekend, but they were seeking a bigger fee than that to start with, and ended up taking a loss on that deal.
Yeah, Darren Gibson as well, same situation. I wonder if they'll make that same choice with Machado. I think they might do as well, especially if they think there's any chance that Machado will come good at some point, but it just seems very unlikely that that'll be the case. I know he has his fans amongst United fans. I mean, he did, of course, provide us with a magic moment once upon a time. Yeah, exactly. But they've been few and far between, haven't they? And his first touch, I mean, you mentioned Danny Welbeck's first touch, but Machado's first touch has looked leaden for 2 seasons, really. It was interesting that Welbeck and Chicharito seem to have swapped first touches for a few games.
Chicharito took the ball on his instep, span, whacked a 50-yard pass out to the right wing.
It's weird, isn't it?
Stunning.
It's weird.
It was Scholes-esque.
United are weird. I think it's fair to say this season has just been weird from start to finish.
Well, weird is a good word. Weird is a good word. It's a word that could be applied to many things, including Bébé. Weird name. Weird player, weird deal. And weirdly, he's returned.
Hooray!
He's come back from a cruciate knee injury and came off the bench for Beşiktaş the other night and played against Istanbul BB, probably the 18th ranked club from Istanbul. Of course, every club in Turkey is from Istanbul. It's not true. It's not true. Before you all email me, there's just quite a few of them.
You're telling me that Bébé played against Bibi?
He did. Oh dear. It's really going downhill. We're losing listeners by the second here.
Was he good? I'm gonna guess.
I don't know.
Right.
I haven't seen the game. Listeners who watch a lot of Super League, the Turkish First Division, email in. Tell us. Was he good?
I'm going to guess, though, probably not that good, right? Most likely, because he wasn't that good, and then he'd done his cruciate. So, I watched a video of that performance. Who was it against?
Against Wolves. And actually, I don't think that was his worst performance ever. And actually, I thought away at West Ham, where he basically spent the whole evening staring at his shoes because he was so traumatised by the lack of touch he had. But the video someone's cut together again of his performance against Wolves is hilarious. It's the one where he spanks every cross about 50 yards over the goal and can't control the thing and looks like a complete amateur after a 16-pint night before playing the game. And that could, of course, be exactly what Bébé is.
Yeah, it could.
On the mess and all that.
No one has any way of telling whether that's the case or not, given his history.
Big issue, sir? Big issue?
Outrageous. So we've had a question, talking of United wingers. Who's the better winger, Valencia or Kanchelskis? That's a question from Tom Patterson. This is United wingers at
Great
at
question.
the other end of the spectrum. Very good question.
Well, one thing I'd say that swings that one in Kanchelskis' favour is that he scored a lot of goals. He was a man who got in the right position, and Valencia doesn't quite do that at the moment. They had a good chance against Fulham, didn't put it away. You think that Kanchelskis probably would have put that one away. Valencia got a great all-round game, though, great defensively. Kanchelskis wasn't always. Valencia plays in an age where the fullback is king, probably doesn't help him. So I'm not sure who I'd pick. I would say that over the piece, Valencia needs to score more goals.
Okay, we've had a question from @SportyMuslima saying, create your complete footballer, selecting ability from various players, and she adds, by default, the smile has to be that of Rafa da Silva, and @NoHeroes here says, also the beard has to be David De Gea's. I would seriously question that. If any perfect footballer is being assembled, he's having Socrates' beard.
Ah, yes. Very good. Well, I mean, you'd want the pace of and the power of Cristiano, the silky feet of Leo Messi, the dribbling skills of George Best, the killer instinct of Dennis Law, the shooting power of Bobby Charlton, the drive and determination of Roy Keane or Brian Robson, the balance of Ryan Giggs, the passing vision of Paul Scholes. Are these all United players I'm picking here? I think I picked a couple that weren't.
Well, you had Messi and basically the best United players ever. I think that's a pretty good shout for the perfect footballer. The other thing that you could do is you could just take the footballing ability of Paul Scholes and the time machine ability of Doc from Back to the Future and combine the two and Paul Scholes 5 years ago, and that's it. Job done.
There you go. Easy answer.
Yeah, I like yours though, but yeah, definitely Socrates' beard. That's the point I'm sticking with. @Daryl Armstrong asks, what do you think our midfield partnership for next year will be? Youth in Pogba and Cleverley, or tried and tested in Carrick and Scholes?
Oh dear.
Some sort of mix of the two, I think.
Yeah, I mean, a central midfielder is definitely on the agenda for summer, I would hope. I mean, God knows what actual kind of funds Fergie has, and the word I've heard at least is that it's not much, especially given the IPO won't be until at least the autumn now. Unlikely that United will go spend millions on Hazard and others that might be in the market. So yeah, probably will be a mix of Carrick, Scholes, Pogba if he stays, Cleverley if he stays fit, Anderson if he keeps off the burgers.
Any chance to have a dig at Anderson and you'll take it, won't you, Ed?
Yes, rightly so as well. Your point is?
Talking of having a dig, do we have to discuss the Red Issue cover, or can we just ignore it?
I mean, we discussed this with Red Issue, didn't we, last week? I mean, I have to say I'm a bit dismayed. I mean, this is a fanzine that I had copy number one of, a whole massive box full of them, and collected them for years, and they seem to have got lost in a move somewhere along the line. But so a very, very long time reader of Red Issue, and it's always been close to the edge, hasn't it, in terms of its editorial? But I think the editorial standards have dropped. I don't mean in terms of the crudeness of the editorial, it's always been like that. I just mean in terms of the quality of the editorial, so it's definitely dropped. They're a fanzine that has the inside scoop, and that's certainly plays a role, but they have currently, whoever's looking after their Twitter feed is a very angry young, or I suspect old man, who is making some very inappropriate comments. And I get the general point they're making. The general point they're making is that there was hysteria about Fabrice Muamba, and people are joining in the grief, as they put it, grief junkies. And in a way, that has happened because there's a bandwagon that formed and everyone jumped on it. Fair enough, but not that it was wrong in any way to do that. But they're just very inappropriate in the way they're putting it. We get the joke. We're not dumb. I get what they're saying. I don't think their response to it is very good. And when you start name-calling in pretty crude ways, random people who might well be your readers and your customers, you've got a real problem.
I mean, they say, well, best sales we've had on a night game all season, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I get the joke. I don't think...
Yeah, that's what happens if you hit the gutter.
I mean, I get the joke. I don't think it's a subject that's actually worthy of satire. That's the thing. And I think that the satire... I think there are so many things in the actual real world and in football that are worthy of satire, where satire can draw attention to the heart of the matter. But in this case, I actually think the satire is really wide of the mark in terms of drawing attention to what's really going on, because people were like up in arms, and a lot of other people were saying, oh, you're idiotic if you're offended by that cover. It's not having a go at Muamba in the slightest. It's like, I know it's not having a go at Muamba. It's just stupid and it's just ignorant. It's like to say that the thing that's really worthy of satire in our society is that people are too expressive about their emotions and too quick to jump on a bandwagon of trying to share sympathy and make sense of a really hard to fathom and specifically hard for the way human beings are wired to deal with situation. It's just like, well, come on, what have FIFA done this week? They've probably done 100 things more worthy of satire. The Manchester United PLC have almost certainly done something this week more worthy of satire than people struggling with how they deal with mortality on a kind of macro scale, right? I don't mean individuals struggling with it, I mean society struggling with it, and this kind of what gets called Dianification is a byproduct of that. It's not people just being facile. I'm sure there are some people who are just being facile, but the wider picture is much more complex than that and worthy of a much more measured discussion given the significance of the seriousness of the issues. Anyway, that's what I thought. I thought it was stupid.
Pretty much, yeah. And that's a shame because Redditch has a platform. It's United's one of United's oldest fanzines, and I think they can do a lot better.
Yeah, absolutely. And interesting that we mentioned Redditch and Kanchelskis in the same week. Their description of Kanchelskis, I believe it was in the season write-up for the 94-95 season, has lived with me my whole life. Was he still there in 94-95? I got the right season, yeah, I have, I think.
Yes, like a cat with mustard on his balls, I believe was the description.
I'm pretty sure that's the one. I guess that brings us nicely on to Blackburn. I can't work out how it does, but there you go. Blackburn game coming up at the weekend. Traditionally not a fixture we've done terribly well in, although didn't we win the title there last season?
I'll be getting the Colemans out and rubbing it all over the gentlemen's. No. We won the title at Blackburn not that long ago. We blew the title at Blackburn not that long ago, and Dimitar Berbatov had a big hand in that one, and so did Thomas Cusack and all of that. It's been one of those places where there's been some classic games, I think, and also some dismal failures, and it's the latter, the pessimistic side of me that worries about this one, especially with Blackburn coming into some sort of form. I mean, it's not real form, is it? But they could definitely give United a game this week, don't you think?
Yeah, no question about it. I mean, they, of course, gave us our worst moment of the season, domestically speaking, well, in the league, by beating us at Old Trafford in a game that quite literally no one expected them to win. I feel better about this. I think we're going to win this game. I think he'll play a full-strength side. I think we'll have Scholes and Carrick back in the central midfield. I think there's a decent chance that we'll look like a proper team again after Monday night's stuttering performance.
Well, I hope so, and I hope the fact that Blackburn picked up 10 points in the last 6 games will register with the team, and they'll go, we need some intensity here, we need to really focus, this is a tough game, this isn't a game where we just turn up and win, this is one where the title could rest on it. Huge again if United win, and a real problem if United don't, and should the result go against us, and I think City play Sunderland at home, don't they, something like that, then it could be another big swing in the Premier League once again, and we're going to have a few.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and we'll be broken records for the next few weeks probably, won't we, unless things go very differently to how we expect, because I think every weekend United are going to have to be incredibly professional, and this is another occasion which they're going to have to show the best of their title grinding out selves. I would say it's going to be De Gea, Raphael, Evans, Ferdinand, Evra, Valencia, Scholes, Carrick, Young, and then maybe Hernandez and Rooney, given how poor Welbeck was on Monday night. I think that sounds like a reasonably likely starting lineup. What do you reckon?
Yes, or Fergie will go mad and he'll play 15 players out of position.
Yeah, Park Ji-sung at left back.
It's happened before.
It has.
Maybe this is the time to make 6 changes and rest everyone after you've had a week off. Yeah, that's a good thing about having one game a week. I mean, I think we've only actually got one midweek game before now and the end of the season, so pretty much one game a week. There's really no excuse for Fergie to tinker, which is a good thing, because I think rhythm at this time of the season is very important.
He can't stop himself though. He had absolutely no good reason to tinker against Fulham, and he was like, just think if I drop Scholes, it'll be more fun for me. I'm bored of writing the same thing on the team sheet every week.
Yes.
He likes to mix it up, doesn't he, Sir Alex?
He certainly does.
And final Twitter question before we call it a day. At I am Scalman says, identify 2 young potential signings that are cheap. 1 a creative midfielder and 1 a striker. And he suggests maybe a Giuseppe Rossi comeback would fit in perfectly with the new speedy system. Don't we have an option on him? He's moved, hasn't he, since that?
No, he's still at Villarreal. He's been injured for a lot of the season. So Rossi is desperate to return to United. Keeps tweeting about it. Keeps mentioning it. He's been in the papers saying it. So he'd love to. Don't think that's a go. Villarreal want to sell. This is the first time they've really actively sought to sell. Obviously, the Yellow Submarine have absolutely tanked this season. They could still go down. And if they do, he won't be that expensive. I can't see it happening. I'd be really surprised. And back to the actual question, I have no idea. I don't know. There aren't any creative midfielders that are cheap anymore. I mean, apart from, I don't know, Mesut Ozil, who was, £12 million. I mean, there's no value in the market, is there, Paul?
No, there isn't. But I mean, the Ozil signing, it always gets talked about as this kind of wonderful, glorious moment of value in the market. But the reason that it was so much value in the market is that the player was so insistent on going to Real Madrid. And that, he just wouldn't have gone anywhere else. So they got him an absolute snib.
So this is an interesting one, right? So the same principle in operation here. When United buy a player, for many years we talked about the United premium, because United wanted the player, even though the player wanted to go to no other club than United. Let's talk about Louis Saha. Very good case in point here. He refused to go anywhere else. He only wanted to move to United. It was agreed between all parties. United even paid £2 million agent fee when the player wanted to move nowhere else. So a big premium on that one. And same situation with Mesut Ozil. No premium at all. In fact, a massive discount. So interesting factor there.
Conspiracy. That's what Liverpool and Manchester City fans would be saying. I didn't know this was a thing, by the way. I've legitimately never seen this before this season. The whole idea that somehow there is a global conspiracy funded by Sky because Manchester United are the most important team in terms of Sky subscriptions. So there's a huge conspiracy to keep Manchester United winning the league regardless of what happens. I legitimately did not know this was a thing that other fans said. And it seems to me that they don't know. It makes them sound mental.
Yeah, it really does make them sound mental. And in fact, good healthy competition is what drives viewing figures. Many people do tune in to see United win. Many people tune in to see United lose. The fact is, just get big television figures, and we have a pool system in England where the rights are sold collectively. Really doesn't make any difference at all whether United win or lose to Sky. But there you go. I mean, why throw a rational argument into that pile of dross? So, talking of piles of dross, our predictions, Paul. We have a weekly effort at doing this one and a weekly failure, so let's give it a shot again.
We've got a lot riding on it now because we have a listener who is putting £1 on our predictions each week, and then we'll go to unitedrant.co.uk/donate, dropping hints there, and he's putting the winnings onto the site. Now, I have to say, there have not yet been any winnings, and there is unlikely to be any in the future, but it's worth us having a go. Before we move on to our predictions, I did say that last question would be our final Twitter question, but given that we singularly failed to answer it, I want to take on one more from @DylanMUFC14, who asks, who would win in a fight between me and you, Ed? It's like not even close. We've known each other since I was 3 and you were 4, and we've never had a fight, and long may that continue. But Ed would batter me in a fight if it ever really came down to it. I would have no chance.
I don't know that I'm much good at fighting. I've never really tried, but I might get some practice in just
in case. Maybe we'll fight over our predictions. I'm going to say that Manchester United are going to win by 2-1.
Very good. Any particular reason for that thought?
Yes, I think that we're going to be somewhat comfortable, maybe even go 2-0 up and then get a little nervy and let one in, and then it'll all go a bit weird, but we'll scrape through somehow thanks to an amazing David De Gea save.
Fair enough. Very good. Detailed prediction there. I wonder if our fan can put a pound on all of those things in an accumulator. So I think United are going to win 1-0. I think we'll go there and we'll try and shut them down, and it won't be pretty, but it'll be effective, and we'll still be at least 3 points top of the league.
I hope that'll be it's going to be so amazing if we can win the league this season. It seemed so unlikely 3 months ago. But, you know, United just keep on trucking, don't they? They're just a relentless league-winning machine, and long may it continue.
Certainly should. Hope everyone enjoys the weekend's game. All depends on the result this time of the season, and when we'll see you for next week's Rantcast.
Yeah, absolutely. In the meantime, if you want to get hold of us, twitter.com/UnitedRant or UTD Rantcast. Ed is United Rant, I'm UTD Rantcast. You can throw us up a review on iTunes, which a few of you have done over the past week, and it is absolutely mega appreciated. As would be a trip to unitedrant.co.uk/donate. Help us cover the running costs of the Rantcast, but we promise not to bang on about that too much.
Okay, and have a good week. See you next week.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.